The Korthax warrior Vexlar stood in the dimly lit corridor of the human cargo vessel, his massive frame towering at nearly 3 meters tall. His species had conquered dozens of worlds, their natural armor plating and forearms making them the terror of the galaxy. Today should have been no different. The humans had foolishly resisted the boarding party, and now only one defender remained between Vexlar and the ship's engine room. A single human marine stood at the far end of the corridor, looking almost comically small in comparison. The human wore standard-issue combat armor, scratched and dented from the firefight. Blood trickled from a cut above his left eye, and his breathing came in measured puffs visible in the cold air. His name tag read, Martinez, J. Vexlar's mandibles clicked in amusement. The humans had developed a reputation for being stubborn, but surely they understood basic physics. The Korthax warrior hefted his plasma hammer, a weapon that had crushed the skulls of 100 different species. The hammer's head glowed with barely contained energy, capable of shattering reinforced steel with a single blow. Stand aside. Meat creature. Vexlar growled in broken English, his translator struggling with the harsh consonants. Your ship belongs to the Korthax Empire now. Die with honor, or live with shame. Martinez shifted his weight slightly, rolling his shoulders. A strange smile crossed his face, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. You know what the funny thing is about you aliens? He said, his voice calm despite the situation. You all think bigger means better. You see us humans, all soft and pink and small, and you think we're easy prey. The Marine set down his rifle, letting it clatter against the metal floor. He cracked his knuckles, the sound echoing in the confined space. My drill sergeant back on Earth used to say something. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Been a while since I've had a good workout. Vexlar's 4 eyes narrowed. Was this human insane? No matter. The warrior had wasted enough time. With a roar that shook the walls, he charged forward, his massive feet thundering against the deck plating. The plasma hammer swung in a perfect arc, aimed directly at the human's head. The blow would reduce the Marine to paste, armor and all. Time seemed to slow as the hammer descended. Martinez didn't dodge. He didn't run. He simply raised his left arm and turned his body slightly, presenting his shoulder and forearm to meet the weapon. Vexlar's mandibles spread in what passed for a grin among his kind. The fool would lose his arm, and then his life. The hammer connected with a sound like thunder. Energy discharged in brilliant white arcs, and the corridor filled with the acrid smell of ozone. But something was wrong. The human hadn't moved, hadn't screamed, hadn't been reduced to a bloody smear on the wall. Martinez stood exactly where he had been, his arm still raised. The armor on his forearm sparked and smoked, but it held, more impossibly. The Marine himself seemed completely unfazed by the impact that should have shattered every bone in his body. Vexlar stared in shock at his plasma hammer. A spider web of cracks ran through the weapon's head, and even as he watched, pieces began to fall away. The energy field flickered and died. His unbreakable weapon, forged in the heart of a dying star, had shattered against a human's arm. My turn, Martinez said quietly. The Marine's right fist came up so fast that Vexlar barely saw it. It connected with the warrior's primary breathing sac, and suddenly the Korthax couldn't draw air. A second blow caught him in the knee joint, and his leg buckled. As he fell forward, Martinez grabbed one of his forearms and twisted. The crack of breaking chitin echoed through the corridor. Vexlar tried to retreat, but the human followed relentlessly. Each punch was precisely placed, targeting weak points in the Korthax's natural armor that should have been impossible for an alien to know. The warrior swung desperately with his remaining arms, but Martinez moved like water, flowing around the attacks. You want to know our secret? Martinez asked conversationally, driving his knee into Vexlar's secondary stomach. Humans evolved on a death world. Gravity that would crush most species' bones. Predators that hunted us for millions of years. Diseases that killed us by the millions. We had to get tough or die. Another blow sent Vexlar sprawling. His proud armor plating was cracked in a dozen places, leaking pale blue blood. He tried to rise but found his legs wouldn't respond properly. But that's not even the real secret. Martinez continued, flexing his fingers. The knuckles were split and bleeding. But he didn't seem to notice. The real secret is that we're all completely insane. By galactic standards, we do things like climb mountains for fun. We poison ourselves with alcohol and call it a good time. We strap ourselves to controlled explosions and ride them into space. The Marine knelt beside the fallen warrior. And when someone threatens our ship, our crew, our family, that's when we stop playing nice. That's when you learn what happens when you corner a human. Vex'lar's translator struggled to process his words through the pain. What? What are you? Martinez stood, picking up his rifle. I'm a United Earth Marine, son. We're the ones who stand between humanity and the dark. And you just made the mistake of thinking we were prey. The warrior's vision swam. As consciousness fled, his last coherent thought was a single word that would haunt him forever. Monsters. When Vex'lar regained consciousness, he found himself in what appeared to be the ship's medical bay. His 4 arms were secured with heavy restraints. Though given the shooting pain through his broken limb, he doubted he could have moved much anyway. The harsh white lights made his 4 eyes water, and every breath sent spikes of agony through his damaged breathing sac. A human female in medical scrubs was running some kind of scanning device over his injuries. She glanced at a monitor and made notes on a tablet, seemingly unconcerned that she stood within arm's reach of a Korthax warrior. Even wounded, he could have snapped her neck like a twig. If he could move. Ah, you're awake, she said without looking up. Try not to move too much. I've sealed the worst of the cracks in your exoskeleton, but you'll need at least a week of rest before your natural healing can take over. Your species has fascinating regenerative capabilities. Vex'lar's mandibles clicked in confusion. You heal enemies? The doctor finally looked at him, and he was struck by how young she appeared, barely past what the Korthax would consider adolescence. First rule of human medicine: do no harm. Second rule: heal anyone who needs it. You're not going anywhere with those injuries. And Martinez made it clear you're more valuable alive than dead. At the mention of the Marine's name, Vex'lar's plates rattled involuntarily. The doctor noticed, and a small smile crossed her face. He really did a number on you, didn't he? Don't feel too bad. Martinez is something special, even by Marine standards. How? Vex'lar rasped, his throat dry. How did his arm not shatter? My hammer has crushed battle mechs. It has broken through starship hulls. The doctor poured water into a cup with a straw, holding it where he could drink. The small kindness confused him even more than the beating he'd received. Human bones are interesting, she said as he drank. They're not the hardest in the galaxy. Not by far. But they're designed to flex and compress. They distribute impact across their entire structure, instead of taking it in one spot. She pulled up a holographic display showing a human skeleton. See these? Humans have over 200 bones, all connected by cartilage, tendons, and muscle. When Martinez blocked your hammer, the impact didn't just hit his arm. It traveled through his entire skeletal system, dispersed across every bone, every joint, every muscle fiber. Your species has thick armor and solid plates. Ours is distributed protection. Vex'lar stared at the display. But the force involved, the energy discharge, should have killed him, yes, the doctor agreed. By all rights, blocking and plasma hammer with a bare arm should have turned Martinez into jelly. But humans have another advantage. We're absolutely terrible at knowing when we're supposed to die. She pulled up another display, this one showing brain scans. Human adrenaline is a hell of a drug. When we're threatened, our bodies flood with chemicals that would be lethal to most species. Our strength triples. Our pain responses shut down. Time seems to slow. We've had cases of humans lifting vehicles off trapped children, running for miles on broken legs, fighting off predators after being mauled. That's impossible, Vex'lar protested. No species can simply ignore physics. We're not ignoring physics, the doctor corrected. We're using it. Every human muscle fiber can exert more force than it should be able to handle. Our brains normally limit us to about 30% of our true strength to prevent us from tearing ourselves apart. But in life or death situations, those limiters come off. She gestured to his restraints. Those bindings are rated for species twice your strength. A normal human probably couldn't break them. But if I threatened Martinez's squad, if I tried to hurt his ship, he'd tear through them like tissue paper and probably rip half his muscles doing it. Then he'd keep fighting anyway. Vexlar remembered the Marine's split knuckles, the way he'd flex damaged fingers like the pain meant nothing. You're saying humans are all insane? By galactic standards? Absolutely. The doctor's smile widened. We evolved on a planet that kept trying to kill us. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, ice ages. We had to become insane to survive. We had to become the kind of species that looks at an impossible situation and says, "I'll find a way." A chime sounded, and the medical bay door slid open. Vexlar's plates rattled again as Martinez entered. Now out of his combat armor, and wearing standard ship fatigues, the Marine's left arm was in a sling, and Vexlar could see extensive bruising despite the human's darker skin tone. "How's our guest, Doc?" Martinez asked. "He'll live. Probably be up and around in a week or two." She glared at the Marine. Unlike someone who should be resting that arm instead of wandering the ship, Martinez shrugged with his good shoulder. "Can't rest yet. Still got 3 more Korthax warriors locked up in holding. Captain wants me to have a chat with them." He turned to Vexlar, and the warrior was surprised to see no hatred in the human's eyes. Just a tired sort of determination. "Your boarding party is alive. All of them. We could have killed you. But we didn't. Want to guess why?" Vexlar remained silent, though his mind raced. The Korthax would have executed prisoners without thought. Resources were finite. Enemies were obstacles to be removed. "Because humans are builders," Martinez said simply. "We fought each other for thousands of years. Nearly wiped ourselves out a dozen times. But eventually, we learned something. It's better to turn an enemy into a friend than to create another corpse. Your empire thinks strength comes from conquest. We think it comes from cooperation." The Marine leaned against the medical bed's railing. "Your people attacked a human cargo ship carrying medical supplies to a colony world hit by plague. Those supplies are going to save 30,000 lives. Kids, mostly. So here's what's going to happen. You and your warriors are going to help us deliver those supplies. You're going to see what we're trying to build out here, and then we're going to let you go." "Let us go?" Vexlar couldn't hide his shock. "After we tried to kill you? Especially after you tried to kill us," Martinez said. "Because when you go back to your empire, you're going to tell them what happened here. You're going to tell them that humans aren't prey. We're not conquerors either. We're something much more dangerous." "What's that?" Martinez smiled, and this time it did reach his eyes. "We're the species that conquered our own worst nature. We're the ones who looked at a galaxy full of enemies and decided to make friends instead. And we're very, very good at converting people to our way of thinking." The doctor snorted. "He means we're aggressively helpful. We'll friend you to death if we have to." Vexlar looked between the two humans, trying to understand. His entire worldview, built on strength and dominance and conquest, was crumbling. These humans had defeated him not through superior force, but through something else, something his species had never considered. "Why?" he asked finally. "Why choose mercy?" Martinez stood to leave. "Because my grandmother used to say something. The strongest warriors are the ones who choose not to fight. We could conquer the galaxy if we wanted. Hell, give us another century and we probably could. But what would be the point? Dead worlds and extinct species? That's not strength. That's just destruction." He paused at the door. "Real strength is what you do with your power once you have it. And humans? We choose to heal, to build, to make the galaxy a little bit better than we found it, even if we have to beat some sense into people first." As the Marine left, Vexlar lay back against the medical bed, his mind reeling. He had come here thinking humans were weak. Now he understood the truth. They weren't weak at all. They were simply strong in ways the Korthax had never imagined possible. And perhaps most terrifying of all, they were offering to teach others their strength. 3 weeks later, Vexlar stood on the bridge of the human cargo vessel Mercy's Hand, watching through the viewports as they approached the colony world of New Jakarta. The planet hung like a brown and gray marble in space, its atmosphere thick with ash from recent volcanic activity. Even from orbit, he could see the dark clouds that blocked out sunlight, condemning the colonists below to a slow death by starvation as their crops failed. His 3 surviving warriors stood beside him, their postures reflecting the same confusion and uncertainty he felt. They had expected execution or enslavement. Instead, the humans had fed them, healed their wounds, and put them to work, not as prisoners, but as part of the crew. Captain Sarah Chen, a small woman who barely came up to Vexlar's middle set of arms, stood at the command console. She had treated them with the same casual authority she showed her human crew, as if 4 Korthax warriors helping to deliver humanitarian supplies was perfectly normal. "All right, people," she announced over the ship's comm. "We're beginning our descent. Medical team, I want those vaccines prepped for immediate distribution. Engineering, make sure those water purifiers are ready to deploy. Security team." She glanced at Martinez, who stood near the weapons console. "Coordinate with our Korthax friends for crowd control. The colonists are desperate, and desperate people do stupid things." Vexlar found himself speaking before he could stop. "Captain, my warriors and I request permission to assist with the supply distribution on the surface." Every human on the bridge turned to look at him. In the past 3 weeks, the Korthax had helped with ship maintenance, heavy lifting, and even stood guard during a pirate encounter that ended when the pirates realized who was protecting the cargo vessel. But this was different. This was voluntary. Captain Chen studied him with eyes that seemed to see straight through his armor plating. "That's volcanic ash down there, Vexlar. It'll play hell with your breathing sacs. Your species didn't evolve for those conditions." "Neither did yours," Vexlar countered. "Yet you go anyway." A smile tugged at the corner of the captain's mouth. "Martinez, get our friends fitted with breath masks. Looks like we've got volunteers." 6 hours later, Vexlar stood in what had once been a thriving colony square, now buried under meters of volcanic ash. The human terraforming had failed when the planet's geology proved more active than initial surveys indicated. 30,000 colonists, mostly families who had spent their life savings to reach this world, were slowly dying as their food supplies dwindled and the ash poisoned their water. The Korthax warrior lifted a crate of medical supplies that would have taken 4 humans to carry, placing it gently on the distribution platform. Around him, colonists lined up in orderly queues, their faces gaunt with hunger but their eyes bright with hope. Human Marines stood at regular intervals, not to threaten but to help maintain order and assist the elderly and injured. A small human child, perhaps 5 years old, stood near the platform, clutching a worn stuffed animal. She stared up at Vexlar with wide eyes, seemingly unbothered by his fearsome appearance. Before he could react, she held up the toy, a faded blue creature he didn't recognize. "This is Mr. Bubbles," she said solemnly. "He's sick. Can you help him?" Vexlar froze. On his homeworld, younglings showing such weakness would be culled. Approaching a warrior with a trivial concern would result in harsh punishment. Yet here was this tiny human, trusting him completely. Martinez appeared beside him, no longer wearing his combat armor, but simple work clothes like the other volunteers. "She's been standing there for an hour," the Marine said quietly. "Lost her parents in the first ash storm. The toy's all she's got left. She's rug." Vexlar carefully knelt, bringing himself closer to the child's level. With surprising gentleness, he examined the stuffed animal, finding a torn seam along its belly. "Mr. Bubbles requires surgery," he said gravely. "But I believe he will make a full recovery." From his equipment belt, he pulled out a small repair kit, something the ship's engineer had given him for fixing torn supply containers. With his 4 arms, he carefully stitched the toy back together, his warrior's precision serving a purpose he had never imagined. When he handed it back, the child hugged the toy tightly, then threw her arms around one of Vexlar's massive legs. "Thank you, Mr. Alien." Something inside Vexlar's chest plates shifted, a feeling he had no name for, had never experienced before. He looked at Martinez, who was watching with a knowing expression. "Gets you right here, doesn't it?" the Marine said, tapping his chest. "That feeling? That's why we do this. That's why we choose to be builders instead of breakers." As the day wore on, Vexlar found himself doing things no Korthax warrior had ever done. He helped elderly colonists carry their ration supplies. He used his great strength to clear rubble from a collapsed shelter. He even found himself playing with a group of children, letting them climb on his armored shell while their parents received medical treatment. His fellow warriors were similarly engaged. Krex Tor, who had once boasted of conquering 3 systems, was now carefully operating a water purification unit. Hexlar and Vexmore worked alongside human engineers to repair critical life support systems. As the local sun set through the ash-darkened sky, Vexlar stood with Martinez on a hill overlooking the colony. The distribution was complete. 30,000 people would live because a human cargo ship had brought supplies, because humans had chosen mercy over vengeance. "I must ask something," Vexlar said finally. "When I attacked you, when my hammer broke against your arm, you could have killed me easily. Why didn't you?" Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "You know what the real difference is between humans and most species out here? It's not our strength or our endurance or our crazy biology. It's that we've been where you are. We've been the conquerors, the destroyers, the ones who thought might made right." He pulled up his sleeve, revealing scars that Vexlar now recognized as very old. "My great-great-grandfather fought in Earth's last war, killed a lot of people, spent the rest of his life trying to atone for it. He used to tell my grandfather that the hardest battle wasn't against the enemy. It was against the part of himself that enjoyed the killing." The Marine looked out over the colony, where lights were beginning to come on as power was restored. Humanity looked into that abyss and decided to step back. "We chose to be better, and we believe everyone else can make that choice too. Even Korthax warriors who try to bash our skulls in." Vexlar considered this. His entire life had been dedicated to conquest, to proving the superiority of the Korthax through force. But in 3 weeks, these humans had shown him something else. They had shown him strength without cruelty, power without oppression. "What happens now?" he asked. "When we return to Korthax space?" "That's up to you," Martinez said. "We'll drop you at a neutral station. You can go back to your empire. Tell them humans are weak, and that you escaped. Keep the cycle going. Or you tell them the truth. That humans aren't weak or strong in the ways that matter. We're just people trying to make the galaxy better. And we're always looking for help." A communication device on Martinez's belt chimed. He listened for a moment, then smiled. "Captain says we've got another emergency call. Colony ship hit an asteroid field. Needs immediate assistance. We launch in 6 hours." He looked at Vexlar. "She also says we've got room for 4 more crew members, if you're interested. Pay's terrible. Hours are long. And you'll probably get shot at by pirates at least once a month." Vexlar's mandibles clicked in. What he had learned was his species' equivalent of laughter. "And in exchange? In exchange, you get to be part of something bigger than yourself. You get to save lives instead of taking them. You get to be the person younglings run to instead of from." Martinez held out his hand, the same hand that had shattered Vexlar's worldview, along with his plasma hammer. "You get to be human, in all the ways that matter." Vexlar looked at the offered hand. In Korthax culture, touching an enemy was forbidden. It showed weakness, vulnerability. But perhaps that was the point. Perhaps true strength came from allowing yourself to be vulnerable, from choosing trust over fear. He reached out with his primary arm and shook the human's hand. 3 months later, the Korthax Empire received an official communication from one of their lost boarding parties. The message was simple. accompanied by images of Vexlar and his warriors working alongside humans to save a dying colony, to rebuild a shattered space station, to protect refugees from raiders. The humans are not weak, the message read. They are not prey. They are not conquerors. They are something far more dangerous. They are teachers. And we have much to learn. The Empire's response was swift and predictable. Vexlar and his warriors were branded as traitors, their names struck from all records. But the message had already spread, transmitted through black market channels, and whispered in warrior halls. Other Korthax began to question, to wonder, to ask if there might be another way. And on a small cargo ship traveling between the stars, 4 Korthax warriors and their human crewmates continued their work, saving lives, building hope, proving that the greatest strength of all was choosing not to use it. Vexlar kept his broken plasma hammer mounted on his quarters wall, not as a trophy or a reminder of defeat, but as a symbol, a reminder that sometimes things need to break before they can be rebuilt stronger. That sometimes the most powerful weapon is an open hand, and every time he looked at it, he remembered a human marine who had chosen mercy over violence, and in doing so, had conquered an empire without firing a single shot. The galaxy was vast and full of danger. There would always be those who chose violence, who believed in conquest and domination. But now, there were others, humans and Korthax and dozen other species, working together, building together, choosing to be better together, and maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to light the darkness between the stars.